lost your whole mind.
NGQ, doing what I do. All white, looking nice. Okay, come through.
So I think in boxing we saw one of the most gigantic upsets that we've seen in a while. Ryan Garcia pulling it off versus Devin Haney by unanimous decision. I have the scorecards up here. It's 114 to 110, 115 to 109. And I honestly think one judge who might have vision problems scored it 112 to 112. That fight was not a draw. Ryan Garcia, for the times when they weren't in the clinch, he was pretty much dominating that fight for the most part. And like when he decided to put his foot on the gas pedal, Devin Haney really had no answer for it. What did you think of this one, man? What an upset.
Yeah, what an upset, but at the same time, I think it was still flying under the radar that I think this is more like Ryan Garcia was really just this one win away from really staking his claim as like one of boxing's just absolute top dogs and just a guy that now has all this freedom to do really just kind of like whatever he chooses to pretty much. I mean, in the sense like just even talking about after now this fight, he obviously didn't walk away with Devin Haney's title. So, I mean, if he wanted to do that, but he's also talking about the move to welterweight as well and getting some fights there. So that's really just, a win like this just now unlocks all this stuff for him. And just that alone is just something great. And, he was definitely, I think he definitely brought it on himself in terms of like he had to he really losing this fight would have definitely put a stain on his already like great legacy for sure. But no, he came away with this fight just the better fighter. Even though it's still you still got to factor in 3 pounds missing weight.
So let's start with the stuff before the fight because I know me and you had been talking about this for a couple weeks, but we had a bad feeling that this podcast was more going to be about, man, what happened with Ryan Garcia? What went wrong? And, the question has to be asked, was he trolling leading up to this fight? And my opinion on that is yes, but somewhat. I don't think he's crazy. I think I've been convinced of that. I think that part was just kind of an act, but I do think he's a party animal. I mean, we saw videos of him getting drunk the week of the fight. He chugged a beer in the weigh-ins. So I do think that the guy is at the bare minimum a party animal, but I do think the crazy thing was just a little bit of a gimmick, and I think it worked because I don't know if Devin Haney underestimated him because he kind of fought this fight in a style that he never really has fought before. A lot of the criticism towards Devin Haney in the past is that he fights too safe against guys who really don't have much of a chance of beating him. And it seemed like in this fight he wanted to show people who he was, and it just kind of backfired. He fought in a way that he's not used to, and Ryan Garcia was able to capitalize, dropped him multiple times.
I think, honestly, he kind of let Ryan Garcia into this fight in many instances. Even from the beginning, Ryan Garcia was the one on the front foot early, and Devin Haney is the one trying to figure out how to counter strike and all that. But even then, when it came to the clinch and all that, that's where the fight just really stalled. And in the sense that now even if Devin Haney's up on the scorecards going into round 7, he's still really got to pick things up. Whereas Ryan Garcia is the one putting the pace on and putting the power on. And then you saw, obviously, in that seventh round, the knockdown, which didn't actually go in the record books as a knockdown. I
don't know what the ref was doing in that fight because he was letting them stay in the clinch for way too long. When Haney would be hurt, I mean, even the knockdowns were a little bit the count was kind of long at times. That's the thing with boxing. Sometimes it depends on that ref how fast he's going to count. But I mean, there is some controversy behind this fight, whether it be the ref or even, you talked about the title obviously is not in Ryan Garcia's hands, and that's really his own fault. I do think that shouldn't even just be a footnote. That should be highlighted that he missed weight by 3 pounds, because I don't care what people say, that does have an impact when someone's not trying to cut those last few pounds. I mean, Ryan even said it. He came in this fight to win, and he didn't want to dehydrate himself completely, but you got to make weight. And I think that people saying that, oh, that's not an excuse, I'm not even saying that it's an excuse. I'm just saying that it's unprofessional. And I think that does put a bit of a stain on this win, because imagine if he would have made weight and done this. I mean, he'd be champion right now. And, his star power has gone way up. So that's a good thing for Garcia. But I love the idea, by the way, to move up in weight. I think that was inevitable at some point. I mean, you remember when he fought Tank Davis, the whole rehydration clause. So it's good to see that Garcia is kind of taking control of his own future. And even in the marketing aspect of it, like, he's starting to become a heel. I mean, he had that baby face kind of persona. He was famous on social media long before he was this big in like pro boxing, just because of the videos of how fast his hands are. And now, with all the like the party animal stuff, and he's just been like acting a bit crazy, some of the things he's been saying on social media in the build up to this fight. And some of the more purist boxing fans, they don't like that. And I think that this is a genius career move for him, because now he's going to have eyes on him, whether they want to see him win or they want to see him lose. It doesn't make a difference. And his ability to market himself has really done that. And he's proved that throughout his whole career, but especially now in this fight, because he hands Devin Haney his first loss in professional boxing. And Devin Haney is known as one of the best boxers in the world right now. And now Garcia kind of took that away from him a bit, because this was the fight where Devin Haney kind of had to prove himself to the max, and Garcia pulled off a massive upset. I mean, there were some sports books that have had him like a plus 500, plus 600 underdog, and the moments of the fight where he was winning were dominant, and the moments where Haney was doing well weren't as dominant. And I think that showed in 2 of the 3 final scorecards.
There was a lot of I would say kind of a debate on whether or not Devin Haney really does have that strong of a chin, and I was kind of confused in the sense that all these knockdowns, it's not like he got back up every time. Like, that tells me that he does, like, the chin wasn't an issue whatsoever. It's just that, once again, Ryan Garcia on the front foot against you, like, that's not gonna bode well every single time. So I mean, that's just, yeah, like you said, it was a pretty strange kind of style that Devin Haney brought to this fight. But I mean,
yeah, it wasn't like him. He's usually a lot more slippery than that, and it seemed like he wanted to get like in close range and counter Garcia rather than kind of fighting on the outside and really picking his shots, because that's kind of been the criticism about Haney. People say that he's boring, he doesn't have a fan-friendly style, and in this fight, it just really backfired for him, trying to change it up a little bit to get this big win. Because I think he knew he had to beat Garcia. And now that he lost, it really puts him in a bad position, because now he's the champion, but in a way, he's kind of like lost respect from some boxing fans. And the thing is, like, Garcia is really good. Like, his natural talent is unbelievable. His speed is unreal. His power is really good. But although in this fight, it comes a bit tainted because he was overweight. But Haney really just didn't seem to have many answers for Ryan Garcia's best skills.
There was moments where the thing is, because there were only moments and not for a majority of the fight, is part of why Devin Haney didn't win. But there was moments where he was attacking the body really well, because Ryan Garcia would get hit and then he would shoulder roll a lot, and so Devin Haney would have to just attack the body that way. But I mean, it didn't, nothing fazed Ryan Garcia, like, at all, really. The story of the fight was really just, if you want to take a picture of Ryan Garcia standing over Devin Haney after he knocked him down, like, that's pretty much how that went. Even with in round 7, what was it? Yeah, it was round 7 where Ryan Garcia got the point taken away from him because the ref called it off, and he still threw the right hand. And, like, Devin Haney, making sure that Devin Haney gets up and all that. So, yeah, that's that pretty much. Just like going forward, it would be cool. It would be cool to see this happen again. Like, Ryan Garcia makes weight this time, but honestly, it probably is better to move forward anyways. And Ryan Garcia, once again, like, there's like really anything. Like, if he wants to fight someone up and coming, he could. If he wants another dream fight, that could happen. So
I think boxing needs a guy like Ryan Garcia right now, because we're starting to see the best in the world fight the best in the world, which was not happening for a long period of time. And Ryan has never really been afraid to test himself against the best boxers in the world. I mean, he took that Tank Davis fight kind of prematurely in his career, and he really catered to all of the demands that Tank's team wanted, and he lost that fight, but he left it with a lot of respect because he had the guts to step up against a guy like Tank. And now he fights a guy in Haney who's considered to be one of the best in the world, and he wins even though he misses weight. So I think that his star power is just going further and further up. I mean, now we're hearing him and Sugar Sean are talking even about having like a boxing match, which would be crazy. I mean, just the fact that that's a conversation is unreal at this point. And, win or lose, Ryan Garcia at times may not be the best in the world, but I think he really knows how to market himself, and he gets fans into his fights. And that's great for the sport of boxing. And the sport of boxing just needs a guy who has that type of talent mixed with that marketability.
Absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, just to go back to the fight itself here, I think I'll say this, that this was definitely an anomaly sort of fight for Devin Haney. Like, I don't think you're going to see, him, especially getting knocked down as many times as he did, like, happen much going forward. But, still, like, this was, just to talk about it before, like, the one, like, the huge underdog in Ryan Garcia, and obviously, like, pretty much once again setting himself up to where, like, I think the kind of performance that he put on, like, he definitely had to, because, like, winning, like, that would, nice and all. I think at the beginning there was, like, a little too much clinching going on, in the sense that, nobody's trying to see these two just hold on to each other for the whole way and, win a decision that way. But, in this sense, like, Ryan Garcia, there was, he did what he needed to do. There's plenty of instances where the fight could have ended, but this was a fight that needed to happen, and I'm glad it did finally. So yeah,
I'm glad that these things are starting to happen in boxing. We're getting more and more big fights. It seemed like when we first started the pod back in like 2022, we'd be talking about boxing like 2 to 3 times a year, and like 1 to 2 of those times wouldn't even be like the biggest fights in the world. It were just fights that like mattered to us. But now it really seems like the sport is taking off again at multiple different weight classes, and we have some big fights even coming up in boxing. Canelo's going to be fighting Bivol versus Beterbiev. I'm not good at pronouncing those names from that region. You already know that.
Yeah.
There you go. But and then also obviously Fury versus Usyk coming on later too.
I think Tank Davis also just got a fight booked as well.
That's true. He did. Like, I think this is great. I mean, all the biggest stars in boxing are starting to fight, and they're starting to fight better opponents. We're starting to be able to get rid of that criticism now that like the best guys are ducking each other. But I mean, like you kind of said, this fight needed to happen. Boxing just needs things like this to continue to happen, and it seems like we're trending in that direction, and I hope it keeps trending in that direction, because I've said this before on the pod. I started off as a boxing fan before I was an MMA fan. So to see the sport kind of taking off again, it's always a good feeling. So congrats to Ryan Garcia. I mean, it was just an unbelievable win. I don't think really anybody saw it coming besides him. And, he proved a lot in this fight. And like I said, he marketed himself well. I think boxing has a big superstar on their hands with Devin Haney too, but also just Ryan Garcia, because pulling something like this off after all those pre-fight antics, you just have to respect that, even though he did miss weight. But just a great win, a fun weekend in boxing. And just so you guys know, next week we're going to be taking the week off. We've been going like nonstop for these past few months, and there's a pretty good UFC card at the Apex, flyweight main event, Nicolau versus Perez, and we're going to be watching it, but there will be no recap. So no podcast next week. We're going to be back in early May to recap UFC 301 with THH episode 65. So we'll see y'all then.
Dash up in a foreign car. It's the type of shit that you be doing